Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to GeekWatch, a subsidiary of the monastery, the open bar of the internet. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have my good brother here in the temple, the man guiding you through all of your anime with varying seals of approval, good brother John.
Good to be back. It's been a while since we done this shit, huh?
Yeah. In fact, the last time we did it was all the way back in August, talking about VTuber agencies. So it has been quite a bit. I know one might say, isn't this kind of thing usually done on Sundays? Well, because Sundays are being taken up by Fated Continuum and next week, Reflections of Gaia. GeekWatch is on a on-again, off-again thing where it depends on where the muse hits us, with a bigger focus on construction and world building rather than the random topic ones. And this was one that was suggested during the New Year's Eve chaos stream. As far as doing future ideas. Now, I know that initially I said I wouldn't tackle Samurai because I felt that it was unsalvageable. But when John had pitched the idea of a construction rather than a reconstruction, I felt that the door was open for it. Now, when it comes to this, a reconstruction is us tweaking a few things at the foundation and going from there. A construction is us starting basically from scratch. And with Samurai, we have some meat on the bones to go with. So I will let you set the stage for a bit of it, John.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know about Power Ranger Samurai's conception and existence, basically back in the late 2000s, right near 2010, Disney decided they'd had enough of Power Rangers and basically scrapped the whole thing. We're getting ready to throw it in the garbage bin. And Power Rangers RPM being the last season they had anything to do with. But out of nowhere, here comes Saban Entertainment. Good old Haim Saban come back from the dead to basically resurrect the series and keep it going after that. And their first attempt at an adaptation from this new Neo Saban era, as we've all lovingly called it, was Power Ranger Samurai adapting Samurai Sendai Shinkenja.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right away, they caught themselves into a bit of a bind because immediately they only had a scant short amount of time. Normally, production of a show like this takes a long time to build up to. Usually at least a year or more.
Mm-hmm.
They only had a scant few months to get everything put together. Needless to say, they were in trouble. And to make matters worse, the producer they decided to bring back, good old Jonathan Zacher, he decided he wanted to keep it as close to the original Sentai as possible, to the point where it's literally almost a note-for-note copy and paste. Same kind of characters, same plot lines, same character development, everything.
If funneled by Asylum Pictures.
Fair point, yes. Which creates some initial problems right out the gate, because Shinkenja's whole idea is a noble samurai clan, led by their leader, who would be the Takeru Shiba in the original Sentai. This would be fine if you wanted to keep that aspect of it, except for one problem here. They decided to replace a Takeru, a Japanese man in a Japanese-themed Sentai, with a white guy.
Which, that is something we will address when we get into it.
Yes, we absolutely will.
There were also some bizarre mandates that Zacher had regarding characterization that would only get worse with subsequent seasons, and Judlin being brought in to bail things out again.
Go see our look at Mega Force to learn more about that.
Mm-hmm. And I know one might say, shouldn't we cover Ninja Steel as well to complete the set? Not really. I don't have any strong feelings about Ninja Steel.
I mean, it had its problems, sure. I mean, I'm not going to dispute that. And anyone who saw our Ranger recaps over on the RVT side of things, they know we had our problems with Ninja Steel, but it never got to the point of outright, oh god, this thing is broken. It's a case of, it could have been better, but I've seen worse.
Mm-hmm. And to do something like this, I need to have a strong enough feeling on it. And I just don't. Arguably, that's worse than being bad.
Yeah.
Now, of course, they had a bad base to begin with Ninja, but you can make a better show out of a weak setup.
Yeah.
Now that being said, there was the slavishness, there was the insistence on keeping the certain things, even if it did not make any sense, as well as having the characters almost with a ball and chain around their neck. But a lot of people gave it a bit of leeway because of the fact that it was a lot of the team's first time out of the gate. You know, new network, a rush production. Some people who had been out of the game for several years. And yeah. Chip was on speed dial. Why didn't you call him to begin with?
But he was already having to clean up the mess from Disney with RPM.
But of course, the issue of not just the whole thing with Takeru Shiba, but so much of Shinkenger is rooted in Japanese culture. You know, there's a lot of nods to kabuki theater, a lot of nods to mythology, and I could go on for quite a bit.
Yeah,
and that's gonna be one of those elephants in the room that you have to address. And the reason we use that phrase so often is because elephants are big and hard to ignore. YGM in the chat brings
Especially
up
when there's a small room.
yeah, brings up Nickelodeon's shitty airing schedule didn't help either. Which no, it didn't.
Yeah. No, it absolutely didn't.
And the whole
Their own
splitting
mandates fucked the series over in many ways.
the whole splitting it, but the whole super split for no other reason than supposedly Nickelodeon has to do this 20 episode per season rule. Which, even if that's the case, I don't quite see why that necessitates having a super variant. And of course, the whole suits that are only used inside the mechs did not, which I've heard was a Hasbro
That'd be a Bandai thing.
Yeah, I've heard it was a Bandai thing. It's a case of not even wrong, so I will take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. No, that apparently at least as far as Samurai was concerned, it originally was going to be a thing for a re-release of the MMPR toys and stuff like that. But apparently they decided to adapt that into Samurai, which is why we got the mech mode.
Mm-hmm. But with all of that, and of course, YGM brings up the hiatuses as well, which yeah. So I look at that as more of a consequence of how Nickelodeon would do these stop and start things, because they would do that a lot. I think they still do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And when I was talking with a friend of mine about why D&D didn't get a very strong foothold in Japan, that's one of the reasons why. It would get support for a few years in Japan, then not for a few more years, and then back at it. And this happened like 4 or 5 times over the course of 20 years. So that sort of inconsistent scheduling can kill shows. I've seen some say that it's a matter of decompression, but that would involve actually having a plan. And some networks are averse to having plans. But with all that said, let us have a go.
Yes. So, I think the first thing we have to address before anything else is are we going to keep the structure of having the Red be this glorious leader of a clan like what they did in Shinkenger?
I am proposing yes and no. The idea that I'm proposing, and it is one that has a bit of precedent, is that it's not until a little ways into the first episode that it's revealed that he does, i.e., he isn't. The approach that I'm going with is one that was kind of hinted at elsewhere, in that our Red is a descendant of this clan. In this case, a distant descendant that one of the retainers has found.
Yeah, because that was one of the initial problems. Is like, why is Jaden a Shiba? Like, there's no semblance of Asian in him. So, like, you have to, if you're going to make him, either you make him Asian, you cast an Asian actor to play your Red, or you explain how he fits into this.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a big explanation, just something.
And I know one could say, well, what if you get stuck with an actor who doesn't look any bit East Asian at all? there's a simple argument. Yes, their parents may not have had that relationship, or their grandparents, but you go back a few more generations and then you find that link.
Yeah. Even if it's just a family tree on a wall, show me something. You don't have to go into a whole episode about his origins. Just show me something that shows, hey, there's a reason why he is here as this skin color instead of who should probably be there in this setting.
Mm-hmm. In that vein, I would actually structure the first episode or the first story as a kind of in medias res, where halfway through you're seeing what led up to that point. The idea that I'm going, because first off, I know it's tempting to keep filming in New Zealand, but for something like this and for the nature of the gaps, I feel that it needs to be in some kind of decently sized city. If we going back to shooting in LA, that would not be a good idea. But there's plenty of other cities you can film that do film credits. You know, Atlanta would love it. You know, there's a reason you see the whole Made in Georgia with certain shows. Oh. Disney loves filming in the UK for a similar reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe there's similar film tax credits in parts of Canada.
They got plenty of options there,
Yeah.
Spawn. I know you're trying to save money. You want to keep it cheap, but you've got a chance to make something big.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and spend a little bit. You make more later.
Yeah. You know, there's that saying that most startups operate at a loss for the first few years, and this is understood as a part of it. But the big reason to film in a major city is that is where you can have those gaps. Which I do think that concept has legs, because you can have monsters appear just about anywhere if you have that concept.
Yeah. No, that part worked.
But I would say you have the monsters appear at first, and a red ends up taking them out, with G or our equivalent acting as a herald for them. But the entire time, this red up until a certain point does not talk. He does not talk at all. You might see him nod his head or something like that. But he does not say a word, because G will be speaking for him.
I like that, actually. Yeah, it creates an air of mystery about him.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, the second half of this kind of story is the gathering of the team. And I would go with the idea that instead of retainers, each member of these families had made some sort of oath, some sort of ancestral oath a long time ago. I.e., a member of the Shiba House had helped them out in some form, and they promised that if they were called upon, that they would answer. And that kind of thing has been.
It would definitely work better in explaining a lot of the reluctance that a lot of these guys have, and a lot of the conflict they have with their normal lives versus the duty they've been given.
Mm-hmm. But I think it'd be easier to get across if you say about 200 years ago we made a promise to someone that if they needed our help that we would come running. And now it's time for that promise to be carried out.
Also, minor thing with this, when they do go to gather these rangers, let's pick. They did two things at the same time with each of them. Mentor D shooting off an arrow into any random direction, and it just happens to land exactly where it's supposed to land, or have a truck with the Shiba symbol pull up and do that. Let's keep the second one.
Yeah. The first one makes sense given the mythos of Orochi no Orochi. And the message arrow, but for something like this it doesn't quite work.
No.
And
let's just have the truck pull up and have them react like, "Oh, fuck, it's time."
Mm-hmm. And eventually I would have it that it is that they're talked up about how they're going to be serving under the great head of the Shiba family. And this is why having the red not talk is important. That is the setup. This is the follow through. When they eventually meet him and he takes the helmet off, and there you can have the surprise of, wait, the head of the family is this kid? What the hell is going on?
Uh-huh.
Because the gag you can do is everybody has this different idea in their head of what the head of the Shiba looks like. And all of them are completely wrong.
Yes.
I think Batman Inc. did something like that, where multiple kids were asked to describe Batman, and all of them had different interpretations, which were all completely wrong.
Yeah, again, we have to remember that, yes, while we do want this to have at least some semblance of seriousness to it, this is still a kid's show, and we need to have at least some levity. Having something like that is a perfect thing to have.
Mm-hmm. And just whenever it comes to tension and levity, I like the rubber band analogy that Tarantino talked about in an interview about 10, 12 years ago, where tension and relief is like stretching a rubber band. You stretch it and stretch it and stretch it until it's about to snap, and then you relax it. You don't let it go because you don't want to hit your damn hand. As anyone who's learned the hard way when trying to fire rubber bands has.
Guilty.
Yeah, or fire things on rubber bands. Also guilty. I love those I always love those newspaper rubber bands when I would get them. Because they were perfect for launching all kinds of ammo. Some a bit more dirty pool than others because it's me. Of course I'm going to play dirty pool. But I know that they did that. I know there was that whole thing of having bulk in and having spike. If I'm being honest, you can get rid of that completely and you lose absolutely nothing.
I mean, they didn't even interact with the Rangers throughout half the series until Super Samurai, and even then it was barely, like 2 or 3 episodes tops.
Mm-hmm. Which, first off,
not worth the trouble.
Spike at the time was go away heat. It was like somebody trying to do Skull but missing the point.
More specifically, season 1 Skull.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to bulk, well, Paulie's always down for a good time, as was shown when he was probably the best character during that whole Hyperforce thing.
Yeah. Honestly, if you want to keep them, keep bulk. Keep bulk. Keep that nostalgia thing going. You don't need Spike.
Yeah.
All right.
I would keep bulk and have him only appear like once as one of the backers of the Shiba family, because I feel like a approach that should be done with Shiba is they have their hands in a lot of pies.
Yeah. Hell, you know how Skull comes back in the last episode as like this rich guy? There you go. There's your setup right there.
Mm-hmm.
Have them run a business together.
I mean, they've
have it tied to the Shiba clan.
They've done a fair share of businesses already. I'm certainly not having the cast stay in one house for the majority of the series. But the approach that I'd be going with this Red is not far removed from others who are technically the leader, but have that degree of imposter syndrome at first.
I think that's one of the things we could carry over from Shinkenger is the idea that he does, the imposter syndrome combined with the whole idea of I don't need help. But I think if we're going to do that, we need to actually emphasize that more, that he tries to do too much by himself.
An Atlas complex. That I'm perfectly fine with going with.
Because that was something that Takeru Shiba from Shinkenger had, and it worked out great.
Yeah. The approach that I'm thinking is technically speaking, he was told. And I'm not trying to give off the impression that G is some sort of liar or manipulator, but that there are certain things that he says that people end up misinterpreting. In this case, when I'm just going to use the same names, even though they're different, even though we'll end up having different characterizations. When Jaden is told that his real name is Jaden Shiba, you could add a middle name in there if you want. He is of the belief at first that this is his burden to bear, and he doesn't want anyone else getting dragged into it. His whole thing at first is, I didn't ask any of you to help me on this. And that's where you can have that whole thing of him getting smacked around that this is bigger than you. You need our help.
Yeah.
Because a big part of the hero's journey is rejection. Is the initial rejection, but fate pulling them into it.
Yeah, we're just gonna play with that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of the other Rangers being the ones to originally to want to reject the call, he's the one that's rejecting the call for help, and they're actually the ones that are like, okay, we have our lives, but we know this is important. We're ready to step up. Even Mike, or whoever equivalent we give, he's gonna be more bratty about it, but he's still gonna be like, yeah, I know this is a big deal. We're gonna do this.
But I do think instead of them having to throw away the lives that they did have, I do think having them try to balance both is going to be more compelling. It's one of the major reasons.
I never understood that. I mean, it worked. The only one that actually did any good for was Kevin, because it did give him a good character dynamic of him having to battle between his samurai duties and his Olympic dreams.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody else, everyone else, they didn't need it. That didn't affect them at all.
Yeah. Although with Kevin, we have an interesting opportunity. Because yes, he is trying to be a swimmer. He's trying to be an Olympic level swimmer. And his Shinkenger counterpart had that running gag of being a bit overzealous for his own good. Like even over the slightest failing, where he felt that he had to meditate in the middle of a damn fountain while apologizing to his lord.
Yeah, and Kevin kind of carried that over a little bit, but not entirely.
Yeah. Oh. I would go that he is somebody who's always pushing to be his absolute best, and in some regard dragging everyone else to push themselves at that level. In other words,
again, they kind of tried to do that, but they didn't do it enough.
Yeah.
We really want to make that a big part of his early character.
Because the thing is, if you're trying to try out for the Olympics, there's a reason why hundreds of thousands of people try for their respective countries, and only a small handful go in, because the amount of training, the amount of prep that you have to do borders on psychotic. Just for any high level athlete, and even more so with the Olympics. That's why there's plenty of people who've been on the Olympic team but never actually competed, or gotten close. I seem to recall, like, and that's why just being on an Olympic team is a big damn deal, even if you didn't win any medals. It's like,
yeah,
I liken it to the story of Scalabrini, who used to host this show called The Scallenge, where he would just embarrass regular Joes at basketball. And Scalabrini was the worst player of his draft class the year he was drafted, and he was one of those journeymen. But the message was, yeah, compared to a lot of the folks in the NBA, I suck. But compared to me, you suck. Because even at my worst, I'm still among the top 500 people in the country. If not the damn planet. And I bring all of this up to say that the version of Kevin that we are going with is one who's like, I'm trying to be the absolute best. And if we're going to succeed, we need to be the best. So I'm going to drag everyone to that level, kicking and screaming if I have to.
And that creates the character arc of him accepting that mistakes are not failures.
Mm-hmm.
Failure is only when you give up. But you can make mistakes and learn from them and become better because of it. That's his character arc throughout this series.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to the others, with Mike, his equivalent was someone who was very skilled but kind of a jerk. I would actually take what I said earlier with Kevin and flip it. Mike is really, really good, but his issue is actually applying himself. He's very lackadaisical, but when you actually set him onto something, he's an absolute genius.
So for our wrestling fans, we'll call this the Orange Cassidy effect.
Yeah. Oh. So I remember when people would. I remember when it came to Deca Green having his thinking pose and other weird things. I'm like, and the occasional sleeping. I remember making an offhand joke of, he's not lazy, he's conservative, and that's the approach Mike would do. Oh.
Yeah.
And I would say the thing that makes it, the reason why it's frustrating for everyone else is, say you have a scene where everybody's trying to figure out a puzzle. Nope, nobody can figure it out. Mike is just laying back, not paying attention. Not paying any attention. Then just walks right up, solves the puzzle half awake, and goes right back to sleep.
Yeah. Classic joke, works every time.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
And I'm not saying I'm not saying he's asleep all the time or something like that, but more of he doesn't truly try as much, but when he does, not only does he do it really well, he makes it look stupid easy.
Yeah.
And yes, I would give him the line of, what, like it's hard? Like he has no idea how much he's completely embarrassing people.
And that would make him a perfect rival to Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
These two very opposing forces that are going to clash with each other, but they'll end up complementing each other in the long run.
And I could easily, if you're going to go with the swimming thing, I could easily go with this idea of Kevin challenges him to a swim meet thinking, oh, I'm a really good swimmer. I'll be able to wipe the floor with him. He ends up losing handily to Mike. Like he finally reaches the end of the pool and Mike's just sitting there going, what the hell took you so long, man? Like, I definitely would go with the idea of Mike is that person you know who just happens to be just slightly better than average at anything, and finds ways to casually annoy everyone with it.
Yes. Now the guys are the easy ones.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that gave them something to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to see if we can solve the ladies.
Okay. Let's start with Mia. Mia is described as the big sister, and they tried to do the whole wanting to be a bride thing.
Except she couldn't cook for shit.
Mm-hmm. Which, you know, that's a well-worn motif of the whole Yamato Nadeshiko. And we've seen plenty of anime of somebody who just wants to be a homemaker but can't cook.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to do something close to that, but not exactly the same. That instead of her wanting to be a bride, her thing is being a fashion designer. Basically wanting to make things beautiful, but is a little bit too hung up on the aesthetic. So instead of her being bad at cooking, it's more her cooking looks good, but until you actually eat it.
Yeah, there you go.
So imagine someone making what looks like a nice plate of chicken parm. Until you realize they focus so much on getting the look right that they forgot everything else.
Like, yeah, it looks nice and crispy and brown on the outside, but as soon as you take a bite, you realize, well, Gordon Ramsay, it's fucking raw.
Yeah. And that was as far as why fashion in particular. I would say that she probably has a very high talent as a seamstress. And if you want to do the whole disguises and the like, for a few gags, you can have it that a lot of the outfits were made by her in the same way that Uryu Ishida in Bleach was uncharacteristically good at sewing, despite how he appears. And I feel like that is something that works a little bit better than someone trying to be a bridezilla.
Yeah, God, yeah.
Now, I could see her having a fascination with making wedding dresses because of how elaborate those can be.
Yeah, that way you could tie it into that wedding episode that they had.
Mm-hmm. But the bigger thing with that whole making things beautiful is not only over focus on the aesthetic, but a bit of a perfectionist in that regard.
Hmm.
I.e., it has to look just right. Except what that just right is, if someone were to really examine it, would make no sense.
And again, that creates the arc of learning how to balance things. That's going to be, I think, the general consensus here is that everything's going to be about balance between everybody.
Yeah. And as far as Emily, they had Emily as the kid, essentially.
The only real defining characteristic of her was that, yeah, she was the young one, and also she wasn't originally supposed to be the one in this position. Her sister was, but she got sick when the call came out.
Mm-hmm. Which, I know would be tempting to do that kind of thing, but we already kind of have the imposter syndrome thing with Jaden, so I don't see a reason to pull a damn it Delo. Yeah, it's doing that. We'd end up having the imposter syndrome conundrum twice, and I don't think that's a good idea.
No.
And but let's consider this. In a lot of Sentai and Ranger series, the yellow is often depicted as the reliable one. Because yellow is supposed to be a nod to the element of earth.
Right.
And I would say as much as it might be a bit of a overused thing or something like that, Emily in this case is a full-on tomboy.
Yeah, I see where that's going.
She is a tomboy who is very blunt on things. Probably coming from a more out of the way kind of family. And has spent more time, is someone who would be more at home in a forest than in a city. I know some of these are very obvious and very well-worn tropes, but sometimes you got to go with the obvious. And her approach of getting your hands dirty and getting right to work is something that would fit neatly as a contrast with Mia.
Yeah.
Where we get the theme of balance is the fact that she is a bit too blunt for her own good.
She'll often see a lot of Mia's outfits and just immediately call out what's wrong with it without giving any kind of prose to it or any kind of softening just to make it a little more nice. You just like, why do you have that design there? That looks ugly as shit.
Yeah, or pointing out certain impracticalities. Or sometime, and the thing is, I wouldn't have these kind of bluntness as a case of, oh, she's being mean, but more of that kind of honesty may not be in the right place, i.e. in some regards she has the same problem that Suyu had in Hiroaka, just being way too blunt for her own good and having no sense of tact. And basically having to learn sometimes the direct approach isn't the best one.
So yeah, with that now we've got both two sets of balance here. We've got Kevin and Mike balancing together. We've got me and Emily. Now we've got one more person to add to the mix.
Yep. Gold.
Right off the bat, we're making one big change. He's not fucking Spanish.
Yeah. That made no sense to do that. Especially
when you hired a Thai actor to voice him, to play him.
But I would go. Now the idea of the gold being more of a ninja than a samurai, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
The idea that they were childhood friends or something like that, I'm fine with that. But the approach that I'm going with is he was the only person that Jaden told about the whole Shiba thing. And because one thing that I do want to keep is this idea that he figured out his own way to replicate the powers. Like he had come up with his own theory, but he didn't have the tech to build it until a benefactor chose to sponsor him. And as far as who that benefactor is, if you want to have it that benefactor was Bulk, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, no, that works.
But I would like to have a bit of fun with his concept and have it that he always seems to be doing some sort of odd job around the place somewhere. Like,
yeah,
how the hell did you get here? It's like I was working and I heard you guys. What the hell are you doing here?
Yeah. Now, if you want to start with him doing fishing to kind of tie that into that, then cool, we'll keep that. But after that, yeah, let's have him do odd jobs.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I am kind of nodding a little bit towards how Shurikenja was always somewhere around, even if you didn't realize it, because even up until the end, they never revealed what the original Shurikenja looked like. It is going into that vein, because if he's supposed to be a ninja, then he should always be around, even if you don't notice him. And this is where you can have that running gag of him just being behind somebody or appearing in somebody's vicinity and then just not noticing. Like, Jesus, don't do that, man. You're just gonna scare me to death.
Hell, in the early episodes, when they're just walking around doing stuff before monster attack, have him just walk have him walk in the background on the camera. Create a little Easter egg for fans to say, where is he going to show up? Or with something to go back to, like, oh wait, he was in that episode. What the hell?
Yeah, obviously you'd have him show up midway through the season, but the excuse of if he was always there, why didn't he help? You can go with. Do you have any idea how long it takes to build one of these things from scratch using a completely different setup? He was doing research in order to actually make it.
And he only finally got it working on a stable level just before he showed up. Do
you remember? I think up until the reveal of the White Ranger, there was this whole thing of what's being built in the background for several episodes.
Yeah,
I'm kind of leaning into that, as well. And now, would I keep the Kurokos as support staff? Yes and no. I think some of the more interesting seasons have been the ones where the Rangers have a whole support staff to call upon. That is something I would be perfectly fine with going with.
Yeah, we obviously don't need to do the whole every time they show up, they have the big ceremony thing that they do in Shinkenger, but you can still have them around.
Yeah. Although I would have it that when they're in the Kuroko outfit, they don't talk, because you know Kurokos are stagehands; they are extras, quite literally.
Yeah.
But they can be, but it's something where that mask is put on. They could be just about anybody, anywhere.
Yeah. You can have them meet up with people, and like after they're done talking, they turn around and they put on the Kuroko outfit, and all of a sudden they just silently walk off.
Mm-hmm. Because I am going with this idea that the Shiba clan has, as I said before, has a lot of fingers and a lot of pies. And when it comes to Decker, I know there was really that attempt to try and have him be this dark mirror of Jaden. I think with this we have a better opportunity to do it. That, remember what I said earlier, that Jaden feels like he has a Atlas complex. Here's my proposal. Decker was in the same lineage as the Shiba, but he tried to do everything by himself, and that is what ultimately corrupted him.
Yeah, but that's a mirror darkly.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why he's so fixated on Jaden is he feels that in Jaden he sees someone who is like him, and he wants to push him all the way to that. You know, much like how the Joker is fixated on one bad day. That all it takes is one bad day for anyone to become like me.
That makes sense, actually.
It works a little bit better than the whole, oh, you've got a secret that's burning you up, because the secret isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, that whole plot line, we could probably work that a little bit, but the way they did it was just dumb.
Mm-hmm. But because of that, and I would say I would keep Uramasa. I probably wouldn't have him constantly bring it up.
Ugh.
But I would go with the idea that the sword was the main thing that was corrupting him. Essentially treated like, say, Stormbringer in the Elric trilogy, or Soul Edge.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It is a powerful weapon, and especially in his hands. But it was also the thing that was changing him, because it was because I'd go with the idea that he wanted to take the heretic approach of use the enemy's weapons against them. I.e., he fought a Nylok at one point, beat him, took his sword, and ended up using that.
Can make a whole thing about the Nylok being one of the best swordsmen of the Nylok army.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to set that up.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the concept of the sword saint. Well, here you have, even though he's not called that, here you have the sword demon.
There you go.
And I would say in that regard that's also the reason why you can have those moments of Decker just completely embarrassing Jaden, but not actually finishing him. I would also have it that not only because of the fact that he's a hybrid, but because of the fact that he has his own agenda, the rest of the Nyloks absolutely hate him.
Yeah, so for the record, we are ditching any connection to Dayu.
Yeah, I would say Dayu has more of a connection to Xandrid than anything else. She was the one who made the deal and all that. It doesn't fit with what's being built.
No.
And as far as I know with Xandrid, they had the whole thing of him having a headache, which is the reason he was taking legally distinct
medicine
sake all the time.
Yeah, don't bullshit us, Nickelodeon. Don't bullshit us, Saban. We know what that was.
Yeah. If you can't call it sake, just say that it is refined water from the river.
Yeah.
And as far
that's at least believable.
Mm-hmm. But I would, especially since there's that whole I would keep that whole thing that the longer the Nyloks are away from the river, the more they start drying up.
And Xandrid being the big boss of the Nylok, he would obviously draw in more power from the water and thus dry up faster. It would make sense that he would need a refined form of that to hold up.
Yeah. As far as the headache, I already have a way to do that. Hundreds of years ago, he fought a Shiba, lost, and every time he even thinks of any member of the Shiba or any of the Rangers, that headache comes back because he remembers. Oh yeah, these are the guys who these are the inheritors of the guy who completely kicked my ass hundreds of years ago.
I mean, there's the whole ceiling symbol thing. That's an easy fix.
Yeah. Essentially, his attitude is he believes he is the strongest, and he has never been beaten at all by anyone at any point. And the fact that the headache is not trying to do the Rita thing, because it wouldn't make sense. It is the fact that for as long as the Shiba clan exists, there will always be that asterisk to his idea of being the strongest, and that bloody infuriates him.
Don't just have a callback for the sake of a callback. Do something with it. Make something out of it. That's the point.
I know. I remember when I was talking with some friends, and they were like, "Oh, just get rid of the headache thing and all." I'm like, "No, there's potential on the table. You just have to take a different approach." Now, am I trying to say that he's insecure? Not necessarily. He just has a temper. And in that given that, I am curious if you if you would have it that we're still doing the the real heir was his sister.
Actually, I think we should keep that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that creates that imposter. That really sets up the imposter system for Jaden.
Mm-hmm. Though I would go with the idea that he wasn't aware of the plan either. Because I'm going with this whole thing that we've certainly had it where mentor characters in Power Rangers tend to have their moments of untrustworthiness because they're shit at explaining things. This is one of those cases. The plan was at such a level that G had the approach of in order to trick your enemies, sometimes you have to trick your friends.
And that sets up that when she does show up, he doesn't leave because I can't be here anymore. I'm not a part of this anymore. No, he leaves because he's fucking pissed.
He is, and I would say that is where you can fully resolve the whole thing with him and Decker, because Decker tries to be the devil on the shoulder, even though it doesn't work. I would also go with
in that regard, sorry, go ahead.
I would also go with the idea that his sister is nowhere near as good of a leader because she does act like the samurai lord approach.
I mean, that's a little close to how the Sentai does it, but we can still work with this. Mm-hmm. And this is where the other Rangers finally break through to Jaden, because they see her to act like that, and they're like, no, we're not putting up with this shit. Jaden had his moments too, but at least he understood that he was leading a team. You just think you can handle everything. Fuck this, we're gonna go help Jaden. They go to rescue him from Decker. We can even have the moment where Kevin is the one who actually finishes Decker off. Mm-hmm. Create that moment. And that creates that idea of, oh, maybe help is a good idea. Maybe not doing this by myself is a better idea than trying to do everything.
Yeah. And when it comes to the seal, I would still have it backfire, but I'd have it backfire because the seal was specifically for Xandrid, but in having a Xandrid Dayu hybrid, it doesn't. It's one of those things where the specificity of the seal works against it.
Yeah.
Not the whole, he's not full nylon. Dayu's human side fix the matter. I am not going with that approach.
No, you can get rid of that and still keep everything else about it with the whole weakness, the new weakness and everything else. It doesn't change anything. All it does is it just gets rid of that one stupid element that just does not fit.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to the what they called the super spin sword, I'm not giving it that kind of name, obviously. But they referred to the magic as symbol power, which certainly fits, but I feel like there's a more elegant wording that can be used. I was gonna go with runes, but of course that has its own connotations. But sigil, I'd say can work just as well.
Yeah.
The idea of it being that this is the writing language of the element, but in the same way that writing can invoke something, this is just taking it one step further. You kind of had that with Mojikara, but if that kind of thing is going to be kept, there needs to be a way to present it properly.
And we need to tie in a universal thing with Power Rangers that Neo Saban tried desperately to avoid, even though it was it should have been a core aspect of Megaforce, but we can also use it here. The morphing grid.
Yeah. Would you have it that Symbol Power is drawing on that?
Absolutely.
I can go with that.
Because how else do you explain being able to draw symbols in the air with a magic phone and suddenly create a freaking horse?
Mm-hmm. I would go with that, and I would go with a few rules. One of them is the fact that the wording there is a specificity with both the wording and how it's written. Much in the same way that I've described spells in certain stories as akin to a computer code. It does that one thing and nothing else. And if you don't set it up properly, it cannot do that one thing. In other words, the strength of intent is a key part of what I'm calling sigils.
Yeah.
And this is where you can have it that somebody miswrites a sigil and ends up instead of making a puddle of water appear, making a jet of water hit them in the face.
Yep. Perfect gag. Easy to set up.
If not that,
have that be like one of the early episodes where they're still trying to learn how to use the sigil power.
Yeah. And I would also say that when it comes to the swordsmanship, that is also using sigils by treating the sword as a brush. I.e., a lot of the techniques are replicating those same sigils, just in movement instead of, writing.
Yeah.
And would I have it that this was something that is one of the many secrets of Shiba? Yes. I'd also have
Makes
it
sense.
that each of them have had a scroll that was carried down with that promise that has details on how those things work. But the thing is, it was written in code hundreds of years ago, so it takes time to decipher. Which is why our gold has such an important role, because he found a way to decipher it far more efficiently than everyone else could.
And I think this is where you can use the whole technology supplement that they try to do in the main series, in the actual series. He actually used a computer to decipher the code because, well, an ancient code like that probably be easy to decipher with modern technology.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can do the whole of trying a bunch of different combinations to brute force it, but it's no different than examining any other code. And
yeah,
hold that thought. I need to hit the BRB for one moment. I'll be back in a second. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. And I see what Dragon had said about needed most East Asian actors, given how Japanese influenced it is. I don't think that is the case. And yeah, we did cover that.
I see
what
earlier. You're trying. We talked about this. We talked about this earlier in the show. He missed this part, but like we were saying earlier, yeah, you could go that route if you wanted to. But I think all you really needed to do was just give an explanation as to why they're not Asian. Just give us a family tree or something. Just explain that, and you can justify a lot of it without too much problem.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to the beginning of our show and look through everything we've talked about so far, we'll probably answer a lot of the questions you have there.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to some of the power-ups that we saw, the main one of the things that I would keep is the spin. Obviously, keeping the power disc, but instead of calling them that, I would call them element rings. You know, you already have a lot of ties to the five elements, and in particular with the main five, the Book of Five Rings. Even if that's kind of varied away a bit with heaven or sky, as it was.
Well, considering that they don't always involve elements either, some of them involve other things, you could also call them just sigil rings.
Yep. I can go with that. Also, this will be a bit obvious, but for fuck's sake, let's not reuse Go-Go Power Rangers for the umpteenth time.
I get why they did that, because it was their revival of the series under the Neo Saban era. They wanted to recapture the zeitgeist of the old days. If you want to do that, instead of hiring a brand new guy who, quite frankly, was shit at his job, no, Canale, fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
No, if you're gonna do anything related to the past in terms of music, let's get the guy who made that a thing.
Yeah, I would say
Call up Ron Wasserman.
Call him up. Tell him to make new music. And I would also say lean into that instrumentation. If Whispered can find a way to make Japanese instruments metal, there is no reason it can't be used here.
Yeah.
It would certainly be a step up from just slightly introducing a pan flute.
Yeah. Oh, you want a good reference point for making a badass rock song with Japanese style instruments? Wagaki band, anybody?
Yep. That's also why I brought up Whispered. I remember when Viking all those years ago covered them. They've teased coming back, but I haven't seen anything in a while. But Whispered is a melodic death metal band that uses a lot of Japanese instrumentation, as well as mythology, and they're from Finland.
So they can do it, and then of course I mentioned Wagaki band.
Mm-hmm.
That is their whole thing, is just taking every Japanese style instrument you can think of and just creating heavy rock music, some pretty badass rock music. Go look up Zenbo Zakara and just tell me that shit doesn't freaking kill.
Yeah. But I would go with the as far as going on to that whole thing with the scrolls, I would go with the idea that this ancestor, this Shiba ancestor, had set things up centuries in advance. He knew at some point the Nilox would try and make a comeback, and a lot of it was his contingency. So that
we're using a sealing sigil,
mm-hmm.
So of course he knew that eventually that seal was going to weaken and break open, so he was prepared.
Mm-hmm. And that's also the reason you have the different suits, is because he didn't build the suits centuries ago or anything like that, but he provided blueprints to make them. Because let's not forget, even back in the original MMPR, Zordon didn't make the coins; he found them.
Yeah.
And granted, eventually reverse engineering to make his own, but that wouldn't happen for quite a while. And in that same vein, and I know Dragon said so he is Batman. This isn't that kind of I have a contingency plan for everything kind of thing, but more of setting the stage for when it would show up in the future. And
yeah, that's the point we're getting at, Ethereal.
Mm-hmm. A particular motif I'd go with was, you know how we mentioned that whole arc of him leaving, of Jaden leaving?
Yeah.
This might be a bit of a stretch, but I would have it that when he's found, he looks more like a Ronin. looking more like a Ronin and fight and fighting off Nylox by himself. Because again, that's meant to be his lowest point, where his old habit of, oh, I have to do this whole thing myself, starts to rear its ugly head again.
Yeah. No, I see what you're getting at. Yeah. Like, he can't take on the actual, like, Nylog generals or any of the monsters of the week, but, you know, he goes up against boogers just slicing and dicing all day long.
Mm-hmm. Another concept I had thought of as a consideration is doing so with a broken sword.
Considering that would be the episode that Lauren would be introduced, would be when he was basically beaten down, like he was hit with that magic. Let's say he tried to block the magic fire that was supposed to take him out, and it broke the sword in the process.
Because there is one motif that has happened in both Sentai and Rangers that I always enjoy, and there's an opportunity to do it here, and that is the damaged suit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let him have the transformation set up, but the suit has clearly seen better days because it hasn't been maintained. It looks like it's the equivalent of a knight's armor that has been beaten to hell, but is still being used.
And this can help us. We can also work this in a way to get around the whole, the infamous too much pink energy syndrome, because people are going to bring that idea up. Well, here's how you get around that. You make it so that using the suit in and of itself is not what causes that overload. It's constantly maintaining it. If both suits are actively being run and maintained at the same time, then yeah, it's going to cause a problem. But since Jaden hasn't been maintaining his suit, it's wearing down and thus isn't causing the same feedback loop.
I'd say this is something of a callback to Adam briefly using his old powers in space, and even then it kept cutting in and out, and it was not stable.
No, I remember that.
So I would go with the idea that the suit is clearly beat to pieces and only lasts for maybe a minute. Or even a few seconds at most. So he's well aware of the fact that he doesn't have much time when it comes to using it, so he maximizes what time he does have.
And you can save that last little bit for when he inevitably runs into Decker.
Yeah. And of course, with Decker, this is the case of everything's going exactly as planned. And the reason to go with this is to show that at this point, with Jaden at his lowest, he is on the borderline of becoming something like him.
Yeah.
But an idea that I had considered at one point is a purified version of Uramasa. But I decided not to go with that because it's built on it was originally a sword for a Nylok general, so it being purified would just get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that doesn't work.
But
yeah, you could do the thing where they destroy Uramasa, and that actually, actually cleanses Decker. But that you could give or take on that one.
I would go with that. But what it reveals is it may have been corrupting him, but it was also the main thing that was keeping him in existence. I.e., Decker has been around for centuries. Or he's been around for at least a century.
So he basically he reverts to a human form just long enough to say like thank you for saving me, and then sparkles.
Yes.
Because obviously we can't have him decay into a skeleton on a kids show.
No. But I would say, I would probably say that the Shiba ancestor we keep talking about, Decker was probably was one of his lost students, the one who didn't get it. So at the end, you can have him go, looks like you were right all along, old man.
Hey, there you go. I like that.
But I do think, now, as far as the 2 lives thing, that kind of thing I'm perfectly fine with keeping. As far as the Netherworld River, I think that can still work.
Oh yeah, the first life being the small form, and then the giant form being their second life.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's simple. It works.
Yeah. As far as I know that originally I think it was supposed to be tiers that raised the level of the river. I would instead go with the idea of either something like fear or imbalance. We have had that theme of balance we've built around.
I like the imbalance better because fear, they've used fear before. I mean, Jungle Fury used fear as a main source of energy, so I don't want to repeat ourselves. I think imbalance fits better with the motif we're going for.
Yeah. And Mario says, if you're going to go with the Reforged Muramasa, it'd be good to call it Masamune. I said Uramasa, not Muramasa.
Different sword names there, Mario.
But I'd say when it comes to the mech fights, there's nothing a whole lot I'd need to change on that front.
No. I
do think there's the opportunity for more unmorphed fights, especially given the circumstance.
Yeah, I could understand why they stopped doing that, because it's kind of hard to find people who are that versed in martial arts all the time. I mean, it worked for MMPR, but you can only do that so many times before you start running out. But
if you're filming in a bigger city, it'd be easier to do it, or at least easier to find somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in this case, I think this is, there are certain seasons where it's like, why aren't you using martial artists for this season? And I think this would be one of them.
Plus, there's no shortage of people you can bring on in cities who have some background in fight choreography. Not that we know a few people who do that kind of thing or anything. But I would. Now, I know it would be tempting to say that there's like hidden businesses that Shiba is involved in. I wouldn't go that far, but more of they have agents everywhere.
Yeah.
Much to act as a mirror to the fact that the gaps between the world and the netherworld can be just about anywhere where there's just a tight space. But if you, I know there was always the tradition of the past season team up. It's kind of hard to do that when you're doing a fresh start.
They tried. God knows they tried.
Yeah, and there's the question of how do you do that with RPM, which is in another universe?
I certainly wouldn't use a fucking subway train.
Mm-hmm.
That was so fucking dumb.
Yeah. If it's absolutely a requirement, I think the main way to do it is just researching the whole deciphering symbols thing, and you end up tripping into that grid.
Yeah.
It's not the
I mean,
it's not the strongest approach, but but it's the best of the worst.
If we're introducing the morphing grid here, and RPM already established their own version of the morphing grid, which we can now safely say is the same morphing grid.
Mm-hmm.
It's multiversal. So what we can do is, yeah, say that they were trying to use symbol for maybe some kind of transportation, and like it's a brand new transportation sigil that they were working on. Jaden tries it out, and he misses it just enough that it creates a portal right where Scott falls in.
Mm-hmm.
And we could still do considering that that Eka Darville could not actually be on camp because he was part of the Screen Actors Guild, and he had to be credited for a voice for a different an alias.
Mm-hmm.
We could still do the whole, okay, I don't want to take my helmet off because my readings are telling me I can't handle the atmosphere here thing. Make that work.
Mm-hmm. Like it.
Let's work within the confines we're given here.
Mm-hmm. And again, there's that theme of finding ways to work around these obstacles rather than just throw them out.
Mm-hmm.
Which has been a theme throughout constructing and reconstructing since we started that whole thing.
Exactly.
Now, as far, I would say at the end, taking a page out of Riku Sanjo, I'd like to keep things open-ended. But this time with the idea that while he considered himself the strongest, he's not the only general or leader within the Netherworld. Or not the only master within that. There might be another that may show up.
Yeah. Just because Xandred's gone doesn't mean the Netherworld just suddenly disappears forever. It's just he's that one guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was probably the only one who felt like he should be out there doing more than just ruling his section of the Netherworld.
And of course, if that is the case, you could do the whole thing of that might end up creating a power vacuum, and somebody else might try something stupid.
Uh-huh. Set you up for a future crossover later down the road?
Yeah.
Or in this case, it would be like that one episode of Megaforce.
Yeah. The general this is why I said taking a page out of Riku Sanjo, because Sanjo likes his ending. He likes to keep his endings somewhat open-ended, with the idea of this story may have ended, but their story doesn't. And I will admit that is the perfect spot to have Bulk as a cameo of he was the one who was bankrolling not the whole operation, but being the backer for Gold's little research into doing digital symbols as sigils.
Yeah. Have it be that he understood the need to be a ranger because he's been around them his entire fucking life.
Mm-hmm.
And so he saw that our Gold wants to become a ranger, wants to help out the cause, and just needs a boost. And he's like, okay, well, fuck, I'll help you out. We got the money for that. And I appreciate Rangers. I appreciate people wanting to be Rangers. I've been around them my entire life.
Mm-hmm. It would be very funny if his business card said that he was an affiliate of Sheba Construction.
Of what?
Of Sheba Construction Industries. A bit of a nod to one joke he made during Hyperforce of, oh, Angel Grove has a robust construction industry.
And you know what? It would actually make perfect sense for this world to have that kind of thing here. Have the people causing the damage or having to, collateral damage be the ones to pay for fixing it.
Yeah. But I think that covers everything that we could cover with this. So what we end up having
Yeah, I mean, we could cover some... Sorry, I was gonna say we could cover some smaller things like certain episode plots, but that's just digging into the mud.
Yeah, a bit in the weeds.
Yeah.
But what this showcases is you have a cast that contrasts and complements each other. You have a I know we didn't talk much about the villains or monsters of the week, but I don't think this would be that kind of story where you'd have the kind of villains that you had in, say, Lost Galaxy or something like that.
No.
No,
I don't think we need to really dive in deep on Octoroo.
Yeah, the Netherworld is more a force of nature than anything else. And it's just not that kind of story. But more importantly, you're able to have some of the elements that made Shinkenger work without being slavish to it.
Yeah.
Because this is something that I don't think Zacher quite understood, especially given how he's barely done anything since he got ran out of town.
Yeah, we actually looked this up before the show. The only credit he's got is for an upcoming book adaptation about Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm. And specifically about the Gettysburg Address. But it's in pre-production, and we don't know how long it's been in pre-production. And he's only there as a producer, which can mean any number of things, honestly.
Yeah, so that tells you how far that man has fallen since Megaforce caused him to fall off the rails.
Yeah. And with that said, it was nice to go back to these kind of experiments, and I hope to do this again in the future. I know it'd be tempting to do this with Dino Fury and the like, but honestly, I don't think the juice would be worth the squeeze.
No, remind me, did we do Operation Overdrive yet?
Yeah, we did that a while ago.
My brain farted. Okay, never mind. Yeah, those are really the only ones that would really need any kind of reconstruction or construction of any kind.
Yeah,
and most of the other series are pretty solid.
And I'm not gonna do Turbo because it's not bad enough.
No, I mean it's got its problems, but a lot of that is also the fault of the Sentai, and you can only do so much with the Sentai footage.
Yeah, and I did. For research some time ago, I did watch a few episodes of Car Ranger, and what I have to say on it is Car Ranger is not bullied enough.
Well, Easy just reviewed it recently, so maybe he can help fix that.
Yeah, because I'm glad that people don't believe that story anymore about Car Ranger saving Sentai. No, Car Ranger was a case of learning the wrong lessons.
Yeah.
Especially since the the more successful shows are not the highly silly ones. But because they lucked out on that once, you have the... Oh, maybe we can luck out on that again. There's plenty of sports teams that try that whole thing of, oh, this guy was a champion in this team, maybe he can be a champion for us. Doesn't have the best shelf.
Yeah, the batting average for that is not paid off.
No. Just ask Ferrari. They brought in Lewis Hamilton, and he was not Mercedes-Benz Lewis Hamilton. Then again, it's kind of hard to do anything with Ferrari because Ferrari is a clown show. Actually, that might be a bit generous. This is the same team. Enzo Ferrari once said, aerodynamics are for people who can't build engines. I don't need to come up with a bigger insult than that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know when the next construction or reconstruction will be. There's a few ones that we have under consideration. I do know at some point I want to try and do a postmortem on the state of things with Super Sentai that led to Project Red becoming a thing. Especially since it'll give me an opportunity to say, Shirakura, I don't hate you as much as I used to, but you really, really need to stop invoking Marvel and DC in interviews. Invoking Gundam, okay, fine, whatever. But stop invoking Marvel and DC. It is sending the wrong message. But that is something we can tackle another time. I probably will tackle that when Project Red or Gavan Infinity is on some measure of out. So we have something to contrast it with, because all we have right now is just a few teasers. Not enough meat on the bones.
Yeah.
Of course, there's plenty of other stuff that's coming down the pike. The Valley of the Judge will be continuing on Thursday and Friday. It is kind of funny that I opened last year talking a lot about Japanese tabletop, and I'm going to be doing the same thing this year. In this case, covering both Oka Hoshin, which is a Chansha RPG, and Magic Punk. As well as the fact that while Cloister is still a ways off, I'm going to be running one-shots of Final Fantasy Legend Edition every Saturday for the rest of January.
Have fun with that.
Yeah, it will be different crews each time, with the idea that each one is going to be going into a different route. Much like the fact that you can have different experiences on runs with a action roguelike. And then all of a sudden your day is ruined because you're playing Binding of Isaac and you end up having to deal with the bloat.
You made that joke for me, didn't you?
Yes. Know your audience. I'm not wrong about the bloat, though. I still hate that thing.
No, you're not.
Especially if you're doing one of those runs where you have no health, which, yeah, that means you can take devil deals for free, but it also means you have no health. But...
I fucking greed.
But with that said, as always, a sincere thanks to everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come on to the show and enjoy the madness that happens here. And there'll be plenty more where that came from, as there always is here, on the open bar of the internet. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra, I am your gaming monk, and join the watch.